A few months ago, I built a new tool chest. It's based on a real vintage one that I found in my parents' barn, and it's simple. Just white pine, screws, and nails. Pretty much no joinery and no glue. And I knew I was going to paint it, but once I got it together and put all my tools in there, man, it was just too easy to use it the way it was. I just plunked it down in front of my old tool chest and got back to work. And my new chest started to get dirty and dinged up, but I was too busy making videos to do anything about it. But 2025 finally came to an end, and I had a few days after the holiday. A few days where I didn't have to get a video out the door. It's a new year, so let's have a fresh start. If you spend a lot of time thinking about tool chests, which is sort of my job, you notice two things. First, a lot of them were simple. For every fancy dovetailed tool chest out there, you can find 2 or 3 basic chests, just nailed or screwed together. A lot of these old chests were made by working class people who just needed a box with a lid. They didn't overthink it. The second thing you notice is these chests were surprisingly small. I mean, you can find big ones for fancy cabinet makers, but the neighborhood carpenter or joiner could get all his tools into a space the size of a footlocker. And I mean all their tools. I've got a shop packed with woodworking tools, and for a long time, I couldn't imagine an entire wood shop in a little chest. Until I tried it. I've been working out of a small tool chest for a few years now, and it's revolutionized my woodworking. A small kit of tools puts limits on you, and those limits aren't constraining, they're freeing. Put your tools in a chest and you'll work better and faster. I know, you're skeptical. Let me explain. Most of us have too many tools, and the ones we use are just mixed in with the ones that are collecting dust. The point of using a tool chest is to make some decisions. Put all your daily tools in one place, clean and organized. Move everything else into storage. What if you aren't totally sure which tools you really use? Well, there's an easy principle to figure that out. Chris Schwarz has this idea called coarse, medium, fine, and he applies it to hand planes. You know, the scrub plane is coarse, the smoothing plane is fine. But you can apply the same concept to all of your tools. You've got coarse tools to break down stock and waste away material, medium tools to shape and dimension your work, and fine tools for surfaces, details, and joints. And once you break it down into these categories, selecting the tools for your chest gets surprisingly easy. Any project starts with sawing to break the boards down into components. This is where everyone needs at least 2 good hand saws, one rip and one crosscut. I mostly use panel saws because they're easy to handle and small enough to fit right on the lid of my chest. I own bigger saws and I use them occasionally, but my panel saws do most of the work. After your boards are broken down, you often need to do a lot of rough shaping. I use a hewing hatchet to get rid of waste fast. If I need to make boards narrower, I often hew off the waste instead of ripping. It's faster, and I don't need the little scrap. And some boards can just be split, which saves a lot of time. If I need to work fast but have more control, I reach for the draw knife. Most people see this as a greenwood or chair maker's tool, but it's excellent for trimming and shaping work at the bench. A sharp draw knife can do bevels, chamfers, and details, but you can also be aggressive and take off big chunks of material very quickly. I have a bunch of draw knives, but the one I keep in my tool chest is beveled down. This makes it more versatile for shaping curves. And if we're talking about coarse tools, we have to mention the foreplane. This is just any medium-length plane with a wide mouth and a curved iron. A lot of people use a scrub plane for their coarse work, but I like a longer plane because it automatically straightens and flattens your work as you take off the high spots. I use a wooden one because I rarely adjust it, and the wooden sole cuts down on friction. And when the coarse work is done, it's time for a medium tool, my metal jack plane. This old Stanley No. 5 is the hero of my workbench. The medium-length sole means it's good for flattening and jointing edges, but it can also take a fine cut and leave you with a finished surface. The metal jack also has the mass for shooting end grain and for precision fine work like chamfering. The foreplane and the metal jack do 95% of the work at my bench. Honestly, I mostly pull out my smoother because I use it so little that it's always sharp. For that final finish, a good smoothing plane really can't be beat. It's much better than sanding, but my metal jack leaves a good enough surface for most parts. I really only use the smoother for things like tabletops. And you're probably wondering, don't I need a long plane, like a jointer? The truth is, I really don't. I build smaller pieces, and the metal jack is long enough to handle most of that jointing. It does everything. Almost. My triplane was custom built for me by Richard Arnold, the UK joiner and plane maker. It's a reproduction of a 17th century plane at a time when English planes were heavily influenced by Dutch designs. The tote might look a little weird, and it demands a weird grip. Middle finger around the tote and other fingers flat against the side of the plane. We call this the Spider-Man grip, and it's surprisingly comfortable. There are times where you just need a long plane. It's a reference surface, and if I'm working a really large piece of timber, the triplane makes flattening much easier and more dependable. But I use this plane so little that it's tucked away in my chest underneath my draw knife and boxed in behind all my other planes. I don't mind because anytime I'm using the tri, it comes out after the foreplane, and that makes it easy enough to get to. If the foreplane is coarse and the smoother is fine, then the tri is medium. And speaking of medium tools, let's look at the tenon saw. As a joinery saw, most people probably see the tenon saw as a fine tool, and it can do fine work, but it's more like my all-around bench saw. Of course, it cuts tenons, but a good tenon saw can also rip and cross-cut accurately, so it's the perfect tool for precision cutting throughout the whole project. I have a dovetail saw, but like my smoothing plane, it gets limited use, mostly very small cuts and, obviously, dovetails. Otherwise, it stays in the chest. People are surprised to hear that I only use 2 back saws, but I've never needed anything else. And it was common for 16th and 17th century joiners to just own 1 back saw. Fewer saws means less space and a smaller tool chest. And now, a brief word about chisels. Chisels are coarse, medium, and fine tools. The chisel is so versatile it can waste away material, shape a detail, and create a finish-ready surface. People spend big money on chisels, or they own 100 different ones, but I don't see the point. I use 5 old chisels, mostly vintage socket models that I found at the flea market for $1 or $2. These old tools have excellent steel, and they're built to last. You can strike them with a mallet or use them for delicate paring. If you're building a set of chisels, don't forget to buy 1 wide chisel. If your blade is 1.5 inches or wider, then you have a long edge for controlled paring. When you skew a tool like this and push it across the work, it's almost like a mini draw knife. It gives you lots of control and a fine surface. Next to my chisels, I have a space for my joinery planes. These are fine tools for doing precision work. My plow plane is just for grooves. It can do other things, but I have better tools for moldings and rabbets. This old record number 50 is sturdy and accurate, and the blades are small, so they don't take up much space. The metal arms slot into this hardwood block, and this awkward tool is kept out of the way. Next to the plow plane, I keep both a rabbet plane and a moving philister, which seems weird since both of them make rabbets. They're actually very different tools. The traditional rabbet plane doesn't have a fence or a depth stop, so it takes a little bit of skill to use, but it's extremely flexible. Strike a gauge line anywhere on your piece, drop the corner of the rabbet plane into the line, and just go. Once you have a little trench, you can bring the plane up perpendicular and blast away material surprisingly fast. The rabbet plane quickly makes rabbets of any width or depth with no setup. The philister is the opposite. It's for those situations where you need to make one rabbet over and over. The fence and depth stop can be fiddly to set up. I always use my little combination square to get it right. But once the philister is set up, it's brainless. Just keep pushing, and you can make all the rabbets you need, and they're all the same. Oh, and everyone needs a router. The old Stanleys are still a good value, and they're easy to store. I own several old shoulder planes, but I've never found a use for them in my work, so I leave them on the shelf and I don't let them clutter up my chest. This is how you keep the kit small. You only put in the tools you actually use. That's all the big stuff, so now we're down to details. I use a plain old claw hammer to drive nails and tacks, but also to adjust my wooden planes. No plain adjusting hammer means I don't have to find space for one. And my hammer tucks right in under the fence of my plow. This little block keeps 2 marking gauges in easy reach, and to make the most of my space, I put in custom holders for my mortise chisel, my winding sticks, and my awl. And there's still enough space to plop a joiner's mallet right in the middle, with the handle sticking up for convenience. At this point, you might be noticing some things missing, like tools for drilling. I do keep a brace in my chest, and I own plenty of bits, but I really like my cordless drill, and that's what I mostly use. Forstner and spade bits are small, affordable, and you can buy them new, so they don't need restoration. If I have to travel with my chest, I'll just add a drill bag and call it a day. I'm also missing the sharpening stones. A period woodworker would have used a grinding wheel at the shop and just carried a single stone, like a fine black Arkansas oil stone, in a handmade case. That's easy to fit in the chest, but those big old grindstones are bulky, and instead, we typically use a handful of sharpening stones, from coarse to fine. This bulky setup will never fit in a chest, so I'll use something more modern. These cheap diamond plates are surprisingly good, and they're so thin that a whole set of them only takes up the same space as a single oil stone. I have these glued to a scrap board, but I'm just going to buy another set and keep them loose in the chest. That handles sharpening. And finally, we're down to the little stuff, and there's a lot of it. Dividers, calipers, pliers, little detail chisels, nail set, 2 gouges, even a couple of files. These tools are essential, but I don't use any of them every day. I built a single till into my chest, and all the small stuff just goes in there. It might seem inconvenient to have all this stuff in a small space, but it doesn't bother me. The stuff I use most just migrates to the top, and I don't mind a little digging when I need the occasional oddball tool. And we're going to finish this video up by saying the most obvious thing, which is that your tool chest is always a work in progress. If you're watching this video and saying, hey, you forgot the thing, you're probably right. I probably did forget the thing. Like, while I was making the video, I realized I haven't put a rasp in there yet. And I really need one of those. So I'll make a little holder and get a rasp in there. And I'm sure there's some other stuff I've forgotten too. It's okay because I got the general idea. I got at least 97% of the tools I actually use into a surprisingly small tool chest, which is the way a lot of our woodworking ancestors worked. Why is that? Well, for one thing, they didn't own as many tools as we did, and they only had stuff they could actually use. A lot of us are tool hoarders. Guilty. I am a tool hoarder. It's completely fine. But you really want to get all the tools you don't actually use and get them out of your workspace. It's okay to keep them. I give you permission, but don't let them clutter up your actual woodworking area, because reaching around that stuff just slows you down. The other thing is having a portable tool chest is really handy if you want to go work with a buddy. My friend Rob has been coming into the shop recently, and we're working on a project together. And it's amazing how many times he's like, hey, do you have a blank? And I'm like, no, I've never used one of those. Or he'll hold something up and say, hey, you've got a big one of these, but how about a small one? And I'm like, those come in small? We're both hand tool woodworkers. We see things very similarly, but we have different tools and different ideas about stuff. And this is why, when you had a furniture shop back in the day, everybody had their own kit of tools, and people didn't share. Your tools are personal. You know what they can and can't do. You know about that depth stop that's kind of fiddly and you have to use a screwdriver, and somebody else isn't going to know that. It's really nice to have your own tools that you're familiar with and comfortable with. It's a good argument for putting everything together in a modest-sized chest that you can take someplace else. If you'd like to build a chest like the joiner's chest, it is a very straightforward project, really good for a beginner, intermediate woodworker. White pine, nails, screws, no joinery, really. We have an excellent set of plans, full color, metric, and imperial measurements. And if you're building something like a tool chest, you might also need a saw bench, and we just put out our quick and dirty saw bench. It's 3 2x4s, a box of screws, and a little bit of wood glue. All you have to know how to do is cross-cut a board, and you can build it. Basically, every hand tool woodworker needs a saw bench, and this is a great entry point. It's cheap and it's easy. All those plans are available at rexkrueger.com, and if you don't want to pay for those plans, you don't have to. Just become a patron, and you can have all of those plans for free. All of them. Dozens and dozens of high-quality plans for free, plus a bunch of other stuff. Patreon.com/rexkrueger. And if you liked any of the tools you saw in here, like my crosscut saw or maybe those diamond stones, we're going to link to all of that stuff down in the description. It's 2026. It's a new year. And we're going to do some really good stuff. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.